What is going on, guys?
How's everybody doing? My mic was muted. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Line to Gain. I am Corey. With me, as always, is Todd and Bobby.
Did you say you have
Good
Corey
evening.
with you?
No, and with me, as always.
He's living in an existential experience right now. Let the
Hey,
man have his moment.
hey,
Yep,
you, boo.
yep, you got it. So, it is Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. Is the anniversary, of course, of Pearl Harbor. Take a moment of silence to remember those lost in that infamous day. Thank you very much. And a lot of beautiful ceremonies going around in the world today in remembrance of that date. But a lot of happenings in the world of sports over the last few days, and we are going to get into all of that tonight. We've got a good show for you. We've got a couple of great topics. We've got some college football to go over. We've got some NFL debating to do. We're going to do a little segment called Hall of Fame or Not. We're going to discuss the college football playoff. I want to talk a little bit about that. Some news coming out of Pittsburgh in regards to their future and MLB lockout. We're going to talk a little bit of, excuse me. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So if you're joining us tonight, go ahead and say what's up in the chat. Drop a like, drop a share if you're feeling frisky. As always, I bring my lunch pail to work. And as you guys may or may not know, I've been in the middle. I'm 7 days in now to my Christmas beer Advent calendar. I'm
Very
on
nice.
day 7. All 7 so far. Yep, all 7 so far have been German brews. Tonight, really forgive me for this butchering, we have Kerpfalzbrau. It is a Hell's traditional brewed in the heart of Germany, and it is from, in terms of heart of Germany, I'm going to find, oh, here we go, Plankstadt, Germany. So here we are. Cheers, gentlemen.
Very nice.
Yeah, and they're all tall
Oh yeah,
boys, which is
that's
fantastic.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
That's
can't
a
beat
beautiful
that.
thing.
That's got to be one large box. That's all I got to say.
it is. It's pretty large. It's about I'd say like a 2x3 rectangle,
Ooh.
2 feet by 3 feet rectangle with
Very nice.
big old can size holes. You rip them open. And my wife has a wine advent calendar.
Ooh.
I promise we don't drink all the time.
Just
Hey,
once a day.
Just
it's
once a
it's
day
the holidays.
in December. Rob with a comment. Evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Rob.
Good evening, sir.
Mr. Meter, how we doing? Also want to say happy birthday, Mom.
Oh,
She
Shelly, happy
had,
birthday.
Happy birthday, Shelly.
yeah, it's crazy. So she
30
is
years old. That's wild.
yeah, it's crazy. We did I tell you guys about the surprise? I think I told Todd about the surprise party we threw for her, but over the weekend
I'm glad you already threw it instead of telling us now beforehand, because I was like, well,
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. Come on.
Cat's out of the bag.
What
ladies and
do I
gentlemen.
look like? No, it was an absolute banger. Yeah, but my mom, she shares a birthday with obviously December 7th, and then my grandmother who passed away this year, she was September 11th. And then I share a birthday with Hitler. So
April 20th. And the
That's
National Pot Smokers Holiday.
all of our birthdays are
I
aligned
can't
with
wait till you
some
turn
sort of
69 on 420, Bobby. I can't wait.
oh God. What a magical
We're going to
day.
throw a banger. It's going to be the best Rally Tell Sports episode ever when Bobby turns 69 on April 20th.
Oh wow.
Absolutely.
What year would that be?
How old are you now?
Well, I'm 30.
Okay, so
29 years
2021.
from now.
so that'd be 2060. Oh, sweet.
2060.
It's gonna be such a.
2060. You're
We'll
gonna
be in the meta.
69
We'll be
on
balls
420.
deep in the metaverse by then. So
Oh yeah.
everyone will just be in our houses at that point.
we're
Essentially,
we're gonna be able to be younger versions of ourselves in the metaverse, so we'll just never age.
it's gonna be awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to never die.
Rob with a couple other comments, saying he's doing pretty good, not too bad. And his mom's birthday was yesterday.
Oh,
He's
Well,
also
Rob,
saying happy birthday to Shelly. Yeah. Happy birthday, Rob's mom. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. We had some exciting stuff happen over the weekend, boys. The college football playoff was announced, and the University of Cincinnati has done what no other team has been able to do so far outside of the Power Five. They are first group of 5 team to get into the college football playoff with a shot for the national championship. And what are you guys feeling? They got Alabama on New Year's Eve, 3:30, I believe it is. This game is going to take place, I believe it's the Cotton Bowl. That's
right.
So this game is going to be a lot of fun. So Rob with a comment, Notre Dame got into the college football playoff. Okay, sure. Notre Dame is technically not a group of 5, or excuse me, Power 5, but they play a Power 5 schedule. So anyway,
Those damn independents. What are they doing?
Yeah, Notre Dame is basically ACC slash Big Ten stepbrother, if you want to count it like that. So
yeah.
But anyway, absolutely amazing scene at Nippert. I don't know. Did you guys get a chance to watch the game on Saturday?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I watched every single snap. It was great.
Yeah.
Kind of a slow start for the University of Cincinnati, and then the second half, their offense just erupted,
exploded.
And Desmond Ridder looked very good. Their running back Ford looked very good. Their defense was great. Houston's quarterback is an above average college quarterback.
Sure.
Every school has had a really hard time at stopping him, and you see they sacked him 8 times. Set a American Athletic Conference record with 8 sacks in the national and their conference championship. So, pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, I mean it was a really exciting scene to watch. I was at an indoor golf simulator, which if you ever tried to putt on one of those things, it's damn near impossible. But
extremely tough.
We had the the game on, and I was pretty much the only one getting excited in that room because everybody was, I think, waiting for the Michigan game to start or just watching Alabama just absolutely disassemble Georgia on national TV. So exciting scene there at Nippert, especially getting everybody charged in the field. But real quick, let's pop over to that SEC game. Alabama looked like Alabama of old. Am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. No. It was kind of crazy just to watch Georgia really they crumbled. I mean, just a little bit of pressure from Alabama in the first half, and Georgia just had no response. And I don't really consider it it wasn't like an out-coaching situation, right? I don't think that Nick Saban necessarily out-coached Kirby Smart. I think that Alabama just has better athletes, and it showed. And Bryce Young being the significantly more athletic and more talented quarterback than Georgia's quarterback. And Bryce Young is, I mean, that to me, that's your argument right there for him to be the Heisman winner. The
really?
SEC championship.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think that at least puts him as the front runner, in my opinion, over CJ Stroud at this point. Now, look, things could change, but I think that Bryce Young kind of solidified that spot as being the Heisman Trophy winner.
Couple of shout outs and we'll dive into that. Bruce, thank you for liking the video. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight, buddy.
What up, Bruce?
So I would really like to see a defensive player win the Heisman this year, just because I'm not really wowed by any of these offensive prospects this year. Bobby, I see you nodding your head there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, his name's Hutchinson, right?
Yeah,
Aiden
Hutchinson.
Aiden Hutchinson. Dude's having a monster year.
He really is.
Absolute monster year. I mean, if there's going to be a year for a defensive player to win the Heisman, it's this year. I honestly, I would put him as the front runner. I think he's been the most consistent of all of the candidates thus far this season, just from a performance perspective.
I think that's fair, especially when you look at what he did in the matchup against Ohio State. And And then in the Big Ten championship, and you want to talk about disassembling, yeah, Michigan probably had the easiest matchup other than Cincinnati. And you know what? Actually, I might put Houston pretty
I think
close
Houston
to
is better than
Iowa.
Iowa.
Well,
I
I'm
actually
not ready to
believe
say that they're better. I think they could compete very well
Yeah.
against Iowa, and I think it'd be a really good game. But you know, those two are pretty similar in terms of talent. And Michigan just absolutely ripped Iowa apart. They,
Mhm.
you know, from start to finish, again, kind of slow, but then it absolutely exploded
Yeah.
in the back half of that game.
Yeah, you watch the first two drives for Michigan's offense, you're like, oh, this is kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
Like it seems like that everything was kind of slow, and then they ran the the pitch to Edwards, the freshman or sophomore running back, who threw it 35 yards downfield for a wide open wide receiver in the end zone, and then from there, it just everything just turned over. Because I thought Iowa's quarterback, the guy that started for them, he wasn't their starter all year, right?
I'm not 100% certain about that.
So I think that he started the season and then he got hurt and then he got beat out for the starting gig. But
Gotcha.
regardless, once they stopped Iowa's two tight ends, and specifically Laporta, who will be, I think that game was excellent for him because he was the only bright spot in Iowa's offense. Once they were able to shut down the middle of the field, Iowa just didn't have a chance. Their quarterback just was unable to throw anything accurate over 15 yards, and they couldn't get the running game started because of Michigan's two edge rushers who, we're talking about Hutchinson, but I can't remember how to say their other edge rusher linebacker's name. In Jobo, I think is how he has 13 or 11 or 13 sacks, and then Hutchinson had 13 sacks. So Michigan, those two guys had more sacks than I think they said like 15 or 16 schools themselves.
That's amazing.
Just between the two of them. So, if you're Michigan, I think being matched up with Georgia is best case scenario for them.
Really? Okay. Why do you say that? And I was gonna talk about a couple other championship games first, but let's get into the rankings and what we got going forward. Obviously, Alabama being number 1 overall, facing off against the University of Cincinnati at 4. And then you have 2 Michigan, 3 Georgia facing off against each other. And I believe, are they playing in the Sugar Bowl?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that'll be in Atlanta. Bruce with a comment here, is Bobby sleeping? No, he's just in a perpetual state of tired at all times. But that a lot of people, specifically here in Michigan, with the comment, how do you go from number 2? How do you stay at number 2 and get leapfrogged by number 3, or excuse me, number 4, when you won your game? And so, I want to hear your thoughts on that. I have my own personal thoughts on that. But Bobby, any perspective as to why the rankings ended up the way that they did, with Alabama number 1 leapfrogging Michigan?
It's tough, man. I think they both had great seasons, but I think Alabama's just a better team.
And yeah, and I think that is something to do with it. I think if you were to take a look at individual teams, you say, which one do you think would win? After watching both of those games and you put them together, who do you think would be the odds favorite? In my opinion, I think Alabama would be the odds favorite to win that game. And thus they would then be the better team by logic perspective, not even from looking at schedules or anything like that. If you just put them on a field tomorrow, I think most people would pick Alabama to win that game. And I think but I think there's one other reason why Alabama is number 1 and Michigan is number 2. And that's because they didn't want to have a Georgia-Alabama rematch
Absolutely.
3 weeks later from what they just saw. They don't want to see that. They want to give an opportunity for maybe an all SEC championship game. They want that opportunity. Why do they want that opportunity? Because which fan base watches more football? SEC fans. It doesn't even matter if their team is in it. Gators fans, Tigers fans, pick whichever Tiger out of the SEC you're thinking of. Vols fans, Commodores fans, Rebels fans. they will all be tuning in for the college football playoff, because college football is more important than NFL. It is more important than basketball. It is a way of life in the SEC country. So they will be tuning in. So any opportunity to spread around the SEC, potentially concentrate the SEC into the national championship game, I think that makes sense. But also, I think Alabama is the better team right now. Todd, any other thoughts on the way that the rankings ended up shaking out?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit it, but I think you don't want the same matchup
Yeah.
twice in a month. You just don't. That's not good. That's not good for television. That's not good for college football. You need to spread that love around a little bit. You need to give the G5 and the P5 an opportunity to make their mark, right? So you need to give Cincinnati their opportunity to make their mark against an SEC school, and then you need to allow Michigan to make their mark against an SEC school.
Yeah.
So even if that game exists in the national championship again, which it very well could, you have to give that breathing room. Otherwise, you're going to lose viewership.
And I think the fans of Michigan are upset because they feel that since they were 2 and they won and number 1 lost, they should be number 1. And not only
Sure.
that, if they were number 1, they'd be matching up against Cincinnati. And I'm sure that they feel Cincinnati is an easier matchup than Georgia. I don't deny that either. Even though I'm rooting for Cincinnati to win the whole thing. I think a lot of the country probably is as well. But
Yeah.
I think that the fans of Michigan feel as though they were shorted, or rather given a harder road to the national championship than they should have been, right? If they get a matchup against Cincinnati, that's the easier matchup. They can win that one, they know, or they feel very confident that they can win that and get to the national championship game and have a chance to play for it all. Now they have to go through 2 who could arguably be 1 and 2 in Alabama and
Right.
Georgia right now.
Right.
And that's, again, assuming that Alabama beats the University of Cincinnati. I don't know if you guys have seen the spread for either game right now, but if not, I'll go ahead and look those up. But while I'm doing that, can we just take a moment to recognize what the Big 12 championship game was? Obviously, Baylor versus Oklahoma State. Obviously, we were all texting during that game.
Yes.
What
Oh
an
my God.
amazing.
So that's the best goal line stand I've watched, like, with my eyes, happen in real time. Unbelievable by Baylor's defense. I mean, that is a 0.01 scenario for them to be able to make that goal line stand. 99.9 times out of 100, Oklahoma State scores there. That's facts. And Baylor being able to stop them and seal the deal on that number one, that if you're a Cincinnati fan, you were absolutely stoked because that solidified your spot. All you had to do is beat Houston, right? Because there was still a chance, and we talked about it, Oklahoma State gets in, even if Cincinnati beats Houston, right?
Yeah, so Oklahoma State wins and Georgia beats Alabama. Oklahoma State gets in and Alabama's out is what was the opinion of most experts there.
Right. So now you don't care if Alabama beats Georgia, right? If you're a UC fan. So I think for us three that were watching it, that goal line stand, albeit it was incredible, I jumped up out of my seat and even it's like, holy shit, that didn't just happen. There's no way. I had to rewatch it and watch it to make sure that I saw it correctly. And
literal inches.
Yes.
Literal.
No,
yeah. I mean,
they had the ball inside the 1 yard line to start too, which is even crazier.
So looking at watching that game, and I was talking to also one of our good buddies here, friend of the show, Nathan Ducklow. I was talking to him and texting him, getting pumped up for the UC game. He's probably the biggest Bearcats fan I know. And I would text him a little bit during that. He's like, watching this game, neither of these teams deserve to be in the college football playoff. And I kind of agreed with him because even I was texting you guys watching the beginning part of this game, just watching Oklahoma State's quarterback attempt to throw the football, attempt to have some kind of offensive efficiency, and it was disgusting. It wasn't even like Baylor's defense was really bearing down, no pun intended, on them that much. He was just making really bad decisions and really shitty throws, to be honest with you. So to see them come back and roar back, and then for Baylor's defense to just shut it down at the goal line. Katie and I are watching this game together, and she's sitting on the couch, and literally as this guy gets tackled, her first reaction is, "Aw, feel bad for that guy." Oh, poor guy.
So humane.
And in my head, I'm like, what about the guy that made the tackle? He's a hero,
Right.
So no, it was awesome. It was probably one of the coolest goal line stands. They had like 5 shots at scoring a touchdown. Pass interference call in the end zone gave them another few opportunities. But what a game!
Insane, absolutely insane. It was awesome.
It was a lot of fun. One more championship game that I do want to touch on before we move on to one more college football topic for the night, and that, of course, the Utah Utes laying the hammer down on Oregon again for a second time.
2 times in 3 weeks, right?
This, of course, was on Friday night. Yeah, that's right. They played them week, I think it's technically 12 of college football season, with the bye mixed in there. So it was their 11th game of the season, and Utah shut them down that time in Salt Lake City, and they shut them down again for the Pac-12 championship. And it was they did a phenomenal job. They started out 14-0, I think it was, and never looked back. So congratulations to the Utes, who will take on the Ohio State University in the Rose Bowl. Should be an interesting matchup.
I think that is one of my most exciting bowl games of this bowl season, because you're going to watch, arguably, from watching Utah's defense,
one of the best in the country.
Yeah, and then you're watching one of the most explosive over-the-air offenses in college football as well.
Yeah, one of the best wide receiver groups in football, no doubt about that. And
I think the best wide receiver.
Yeah, right. You're looking at 2 first, or at least 2 first and second day draft picks, I think, out of that group.
Right.
And that's the thing about Kyle Whittingham in that Utah team, is they've always been a stout defense since he's been there and took over that program from Urban Meyer. So it's been great for the program, great for the city of Salt Lake, and
and that's especially good because they had one of their players get shot and killed before the season started.
They did,
and they dedicated the whole season to him. And for them to beat Oregon and bust up the college football playoff and then win the Pac-12, it's a really nice. It's a feel good story, and it's an even better opportunity to put the Pac-12 just a little bit more on the map, right? Because I think that as a Power 5 conference, they are clearly the weakest.
In terms of depth, I think that makes sense.
Yes,
and I think they have better top end teams than the Big 12, and those are the two that we're really comparing. However, this year you could say they're better than the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking Wake Forest being the top.
They're the face
ACC
of the ACC this year, and what?
So right. And look, I think that anytime that you can, because now Utah is now considered a Power 5 school, and that's a very new thing for them. And it's also helping their basketball program. So it's good to see a school that really that's had some high spots, and now I think it's going to create more consistency, and especially as you're seeing coaching changes happen in the Pac-12, I think it makes things even more interesting.
So we got one more thing to talk about in terms of college football, but before we do that, I want to do a little plug here about something that we are going to be doing as a team. We decided that we want to host a college bowl pick'em pool. So if you like college football, you like the bowl games, and you like picking the winners, we are hosting a group on ESPN.com for their Capital One Bowl pick'em. And we are going to be doing a $10 entry, but it's going to be a 50-50 split. So what I'm trying to say here is that 50% of your entry fee will be going to the Covenant House of Michigan, and the other 50% will be going to the pot. Winner take all at the end, whoever gets the most pick'em correct in terms of this college football bowl season. So if you're interested, hit one of us up. You're most likely friends with one of us on Facebook. Hit us up on Facebook or text us, whatever, and let us know that you're interested. Drop a link or something in the chat. Bruce with a comment here. Pot? ? Yes, not marijuana. Although if you're in Nevada, Bruce, our states have it legal. But we're talking, you throw in $10, $5 of those dollars goes towards the kitty, the grand prize. Whoever picks the most games right wins the money, Bruce. That's what I'm trying to say here. Come on. Anyway,
bunch of DJs for Rally Town Sports. I love it.
pot. Where was I going with this, guys? Yeah, hit us up. Let us know if you're interested, and we will. You can go ahead and shoot us over your entry. We'll get you the link. We'll get you the Bruce. I'm ignoring that comment, and then we will. We'll get you the password to the group as well. Money going to a good cause. Anyway.
All right.
So the last thing that we wanted to talk about, Todd, you had brought up something that it kind of caught your eye over the weekend.
Yeah. So if you watch the ACC championship game, you watched Pittsburgh take on Wake Forest, and you watched arguably the top quarterback in this draft class, Kenny Pickett, do what everyone is calling a fake slide. So he basically was, I don't know, let's call it 15 yards down the field.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time in the open field, you juke. You make some sort of action to sway the defender one way or the other. Well, Kenny Pickett went to slide and used that as a deke to get to the end zone, which resulted in a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And it was, so that my initial reaction too was, wow, that's 200 IQ move for a quarterback, right?
Right.
Do the thing that everyone expects you to do. Make every defender collapse to that, because they don't have to touch you in college football either. They just have to basically they see and they're like, all right, play's over.
Yeah, I mean, so like in college football, you catch a ball and fall to the ground, you're down. You're not down by contact. Right? It's down by knee touching the ground. Yeah.
Right. So 18 yards in, Kenny Pickett's got the first down. They're like, all right, play's over. Nope, just kidding. 32 more yards for a touchdown. So my initial reaction was, what a fucking great play. I mean, that is high football IQ. Do the thing that you know that you can do to fake out every defender.
I see fire burning behind Bobby's eyes right now as you say
that. So Ryan Clark, very well respected analyst, former talent for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a couple of other teams, said that this is a prime example of players creating a targeting issue. And what he meant by that was anytime that a quarterback now goes to slide, players are going to react to the slide as if it is going to be a juke, right? And they're going to hit this quarterback. They're going to go helmet to helmet. More concussions are going to happen. More shoulder injuries are going to happen, neck injuries, etc. Any upper body injury is more susceptible now, right? Mm-hmm. So they're teaching these young athletes to, on both sides of the ball, to protect the quarterback, right? If a quarterback's down, don't touch them. The college football has really enforced the no contact rule on quarterbacks as well.
Well, head-to-head contact in general with the whole targeting issue, players being ejected for a helmet-to-helmet contact.
Right. So my question to you guys is that move good or bad for football?
Bad.
Elaborate.
I mean, it's essentially what you said, right? I mean, they have already made so many changes to how you can hit somebody.
Let's hold on before we is what rule? I want to define the rule that you're talking about. Is what rule good or bad for football, Todd? What did you mean by that?
No, I think he meant the fake slide.
Okay.
The fake slide.
Yeah. Okay.
Specifically the fake slide.
All right, go ahead. Sorry about
that. That's how I took it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's already difficult enough for defenders to try to hit offensive players in a manner in which both players aren't going to get incredibly hurt. I mean, it's already a violent sport to begin with. I like a lot of the player safety things that they have put in place. Especially like the concussion protocol over the last, let's say 10 years. It's definitely gotten better. And they're preventing, hopefully the data will come out and say that what they're doing now is preventing the, long-term effects of CTE and things like that. But if you have this fake slide, and yeah, I mean it's just going to exacerbate the issue, and people are just going to start getting lit up when they're sliding, and then that yeah, just I think that play needs to be made a 15-yard penalty if you try to fake slide and just be on with it.
Okay, that's that. I want to hear Corey's answer, but that's kind of where I was going next. Was what is the ramifications of it? But I want to hear what Corey thinks before I elaborate more on my opinion.
So this is a huge, huge can of worms, right? And I'm going to try and unpack all of it. So apologize ahead of time for the rambling. Grab a seat, get comfortable, cause here I go. The major thing, and first I'll address the penalty issue. My main concern about calling this a penalty is, how do you police this? How do you decide that it is a fake and not a juke? How do you decide that it's not like almost a Euro step or like a long stride or one of those little like hesitation steps that players often do when approaching the sideline? How do you police that? Where is the line? How do you decide that a play? Okay, well, did his shoulders go back behind his hips at all? Like, what is the what are the guidelines that establish? Yep, that is a fake slide, because we've already tried to establish what a catch is, and seemingly 4 people in the United States know what that is, and I feel like if we continue to do that, we're getting into a situation where we're not playing football anymore. And I'll continue to compound upon that in that I'll agree with what Bobby said. Football is a violent game. Football has always been a violent game. Football has never not been violent. And what I'm trying to establish here is that, knowing that it's a violent game, that it has always been a violent game, there is an inherent risk when you decide that you are going to play football.
Sure.
When you say that I'm going to sign up and I'm going to play football, you are thus agreeing to the inherent risks of the game. When you get behind the wheel of a car, you know there is a risk that you might not get out of that car. Sure. But you decide to take that risk because it's a calculated one, right? I feel like you wanted to chime in something here, Todd.
Yeah, so I think that argument is, I understand your perspective, but I think that for both of you, I think this is my personal opinion. You can't. Football is no longer violent because these guys are enormous and they're athletic specimens. So the violence in football has gone away or not gone away. It's subsided some because it's a much more level playing field than it's ever been at the collegiate and NFL level, because athletes are being trained specifically to their position, specifically to their body, to be the biggest, fastest, and strongest that they can possibly be to be successful, right? In the 1960s, when guys were basically wearing beanies as helmets and knocking teeth out, that's just because there wasn't really fundamentals being taught. There were specific things. You learned how to wrap up. You learned how to basically use your body to throw people around bigger people around a little bit easier. But now there is a science to every single thing that an athlete does. There is film, there is technology that shows you this is how you hit this person to be most successful, right? And scientifically, you are more successful of a tackler if you tackle somebody below basically your breastbone, right? Breastbone and below makes you a better tackler. If you tackle high, where the targeting penalty exists, you're less likely to even take that person down, and you are more likely to give yourself injury. So I think while the sport is violent, it is not as violent as it used to be, because there's more things to make players be cerebral as athletes, right? The freak incidents happen where people hit helmets and somebody gets a concussion or somebody's down for a long time, but that happens way less than it ever has, and it's just because there's more things to prevent it.
Yeah, and I would even say that it's almost kind of been a bell curve, and that obviously they didn't know what a concussion was when football started, but neck injuries, back injuries, and things were probably lower when football first started, And you could argue that it's because there were less pads, and thus you were, ramming your body into somebody else not as hard, really, because of fear
your
of
skin
injury.
to skin, skin to skin doesn't hurt as much as skin to full equipment.
Right. And so as you add the equipment, you give yourself more liberties to lunge yourself, run full speed at someone, things like that. And I think, the innovations of equipment have really helped the game for sure, but they've also allowed players to be more aggressive when it comes to tackling, making hits, and things like that. That
you
said, you
feel safer than you ever do in pads now.
Yeah.
Because everything is built with, like, what I can't remember what they put in all the new helmets now, but basically you could get hit with a 200-mile-an-hour fastball in the helmet and you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
Basically like being a semi driver and running over a tire. You don't know you did it. You just see it in the background.
Right. So So my point is that where I was going with the point of the game being that what football is when you sign up for it. This idea that the game has to become safer. I don't agree with that. I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that. I don't think the game owes it to anyone to be safer. I think the game is what the game is, and if you want to play it, you can play it. I understand. I'm there are people that definitely disagree with that, and they want player safety and they want all of these things, but I don't think the game owes that to anybody. I think that you understand that what you're signing up for, and when you sign up for it, that what the potential upside is that you could be a multimillionaire and set up an empire for your entire family and playing this game, sacrificing your body to do it. And while you're in this short window, you could potentially be one of the most famous people on the planet. And that's a sacrifice that these players are making, literally. Mm-hmm. And so I understand what I'm not trying to say is that there doesn't need to be an acceleration of more violence. There doesn't need to be more conducive to bigger hits. That's not what I'm saying. I think the steps that have been taken are okay, but
you're just saying people know what they're signing up for.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And if Kenny Pickett would have got his fucking head taken off, that sucks for him.
Right. Yeah. So the reason I like the violence argument, and I was hoping that would be brought up, because I think that's immediately where everybody goes, is that football is a violent sport and neck injuries and everything exists. And Bruce made a comment, and just like you inherit risk of being a football player, he compared it to being a UFC fighter or like a boxer, right? You're going to get your head kicked in, or you're going to get your head punched in. That's that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that what Kenny Pickett did is actually bad for football.
I think so let me bring it back to that and just give me my opinion on what he did. I think what Kenny Pickett did was savvy. I think what he did was smart. I think what he did helped his team win, and he executed a play within the rules of the game and went out and did it. Do I think he's a bad guy for doing it? No, he's smart. Like, fuck you, change the rules. Sorry. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Look, James Harden gets to Euro step 35 times a game.
Exactly. Right? James Harden gets to create fouls on himself 7,000 times a season.
10 years ago, that was a travel.
Right.
Now that is a move that exists within the game of basketball. Right. So I think that this is something that, although both of you make really valid points on where you stand on it, I think you just have to let this thing exist. Right. That's going to happen very few and far between, because most quarterbacks are not going to be thinking in the moment that they can do. That's a move that they can make to be successful. It's very similar to an athlete hurdling somebody in the open field, right? Anytime you hurdle someone in the open field, you're inheriting a risk that you're going to get your legs knocked out from.
Yeah.
That happens. That happens a lot.
And not only that, I think, so here, if I'm going to make an attempt for a solution, how do you police this? I believe you start policing it by saying, if the back foot has started to slide, when you do a baseball slide, you say you're going left foot first, you drop that right foot back, and that right foot starts to drag as the left foot extends and slides out. Once that back foot starts to drag, you can then say that the slide has begun. If contact occurs above the breastplate and up, or above the chest plate and up, that's when you can do an unnecessary roughness penalty. Should not be a targeting penalty unless it is a lunging crown of the helmet kind of thing. But yeah, if
so, here's my question.
Yeah.
How do you coach that from a defensive perspective?
So I think, and I was thinking about that as you said that, because it's tough from a defender standpoint. The game continues to get tougher for defenders. It get tougher for D-backs in terms of covering wide receivers. There are more defensive pass interference penalties both in the NFL and in college. I don't know high school football, but I would probably say it probably happens a lot in high school football as well. But it continues to become an offensive game, a game that is literally set up for the offense to be more successful, right? So from a defender standpoint, I would almost say that you have to almost start coaching for hands first tackling and then an opening. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where you lead with your hands, make contact with your hands, wrap and turn. Where you grab the defender and then wrap and pull them and take them to the ground rather than leaning out with your body and tackling through them. And you're going to sacrifice yards. You're probably going to, not be able to get tackles. But when it's approaching a quarterback in the open field, coming straight onto them and grabbing with your hands, pulling them into you, using their momentum and your weight to pull them down. That's the only thing I can think of. Other than the other thing that I can think of, if he's going to run the ball in the open field, take his fucking head off. That's
how I would coach it. I would be like, look, he's not a quarterback anymore. He's
hit
not
him.
In the pocket. He's running.
Take him out of the game.
Literally make him not want to run the ball ever again.
Yep. Look, I think that you can't, as a coach, you don't train athletes to hit different players different based on their position.
Right.
You train somebody, if you are a defensive back and you are protecting the fourth quadrant, anybody that comes in your quadrant, you're knocking their block off. That's the rules, right? So even if it's Kenny Pickett in the open field, fake sliding, and guess what? I'm assuming he assessed the risk of like, hey, I could get my shit rocked here.
Yeah.
And honestly, we could be having a different conversation because that defender from Wake Forest was full speed. And I don't know if you guys watched when Kenny Pickett was coming in, he went full speed and he bailed out, right? He bailed his body out this way to avoid a targeting penalty.
Yep.
And I think you coach it like, hey, you have to, when you teach a kid to tackle in football, you're lower than who you're tackling, right? That's how you train a 5 or 6 year old to tackle somebody. You need to be lower than the person you're tackling, but you need to keep your head up.
Yeah.
Right. So that doesn't change at any level. When you are tackling somebody in the open field, you want to be lower than them with your head up, because if you lead with your head down, you're more than likely going to miss somebody anyway. So you don't change the coaching style. You tell every quarterback, hey, if you want to do that, be prepared to get your block knocked off, because these guys are going to come at you even harder if you're going to run deeks like that. That's just how it works. That's football.
And here's another question. I don't know why this isn't asked ever, but since when did the quarterback become entitled to space in the defender zone? So, right, literally defense, right? They are defending that end of the field, the end zone. They're defending it. Since when did the quarterback become entitled to run in that space? Because
when he was at Texas, that's when that started.
So what I mean by that is like, how many times do you think helmet to helmet occurs between the two tackles when a running back runs the ball? Probably almost every play.
Yeah, I was going to say more often than not.
More often than not, there's probably a helmet-to-helmet call, and it doesn't get called, and we just move on to the next play. But when a quarterback is doing it, they're special. They're essential to the game, apparently, because when they're running in the open field, they need to be protected. And I don't understand that notion that a defender has to allow a quarterback to operate in their space. Once you cross that line of scrimmage, you are in the defense's home. You're in their territory, and they should have free reign to take you out.
Yeah, it's one thing if you're on your side of the ball, and it's another if you're across the line of scrimmage. And back to your point earlier, the risk that you're taking when you cross that line.
Exactly. If you don't want to get hit, don't run.
Yeah, throw it away.
Right.
Throw it away.
Yeah, that's fine. So I brought this to basically do a trial run with this. I brought this up to a couple people at work today, and I didn't get to this. This is a much more elaborate conversation, of course, but the main
Go
point that
figure.
I got from the main point I got from both people I asked this question was, and you guys have both said, is quarterbacks just get treated differently.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different scenario. And really, I mean, you said, I'm assuming it probably starts at the high school level. I mean, quarterbacks run more in high school just because most high school offenses aren't high-powered 5 wide receiver options like you get to
Right.
a spread.
You're not slinging it 40 yards downfield.
Right. But, you know, I think that there's just been this notion, this thing since Vince Young was at Texas. So we're talking 2003 or 4, that quarterbacks need to have space when they get into the open field, because he would create a lot of that when he was in Texas. He was almost unstoppable as a college quarterback because he created all this open space. And then that's when the quarterback position really started changing, right? Because then you're starting to see athletes get into that position more, and more space occurs. And then now you're talking about injury risk to quarterbacks. So now quarterbacks are more athletic than they've ever been, right? Because most guys aren't just pocket passers in college. Most of these guys can run as fast, if not faster, than some of the guys in the backfield with them.
Right.
They have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So now, but you're an athlete, right? And as an athlete on the field, because that's how they promote themselves in high school as athletes. They're not just quarterbacks; they're athletes. You, as an athlete, you expect to get hit in the open field. So maybe it's a coaching strategy change, but I foresee more things coming up like this in the future. And all it takes is one bad hit for everybody to be like, told you guys, this is it. This is what happens when you make a fake juke like that. All right, well, next time,
don't do a fake juke.
Yeah, don't do it. Learn from your mistakes, right?
It's that's a risk that you took by doing a fake juke. Yeah. So I think I think I'm not sure something will happen now, but if we continue to see it, I think change might occur there. Looks like we got some more people jumping into the stream. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Again, if you're interested in getting into our $10 50-50 charity college bowl pick'em, hit one of us up, text us, hit us up on Facebook, do whatever you do, send a carrier pigeon, smoke signal, whatever works. Half the money we raise will be going to the Covenant House in Michigan. Also,
if you want some of the kitty, make sure you get it on this soon.
Yeah, that's right. If you want some of that kitty. If you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, share the video, and follow Rally Tail Sports. We appreciate everyone doing just that. So continuing along the quarterback conversation, there was some news that came out this week, Todd, that you wanted to talk about coming out of the Steel City.
Todd, I just got your text. Go ahead. Go ahead. Step away. We'll touch on it when you get back.
I need to step away for like 2 minutes,
and
then I will be right back. I'm sorry.
That sounds no. So Bobby, while Todd's stepping away, I got to hear about this surprise party.
Oh yeah.
So for those of you that weren't tuned in earlier at the start of the show, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, Bobby had a surprise party for his mother, whose birthday is today, by the way. So happy birthday, Shelly. And tell us about it.
For her over the weekend. Drove down Saturday. Everything went flawlessly.
She had no idea then, huh?
Yeah, no clue. She thought it was a party for one of her and her best friends, because they have birthdays around the same time. And so I got with Sharon, and I told Sharon, I was like, the best way to fake her out is to have her be involved in the planning of this party. So my mom comes loaded with a tray of cupcakes. Like, she's like great in the kitchen, by the way. Like, they're like these like cupcakes, and they have like a Milano cookie, and then like they look like high heels.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they were pretty dope. They're also very good. And she walks in the door, and then we all just, everybody's sitting there. I told everybody to play it cool. People who aren't supposed to be here, like me and my brother and a couple other people, would just step out in the garage for a second. And then as soon as she walks in, let her get settled in. We just walked in, and surprise.
That's awesome.
And then I was like, I just looked at her, and I was like, and then she finally caught on. And she's like, hey, and she also bought herself a gift as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
I'm glad it all turned out. Surprise parties for your parents are awesome. I got to be a part of one a couple years ago for my mom as well, and it was pretty sweet. So
Bruce, thank you.
Happy birthday to Bobby and Joshua's mom. Joshua, wow. Haven't heard that since
Okay.
he's been in trouble.
Joshua.
That's a throwback. All right, awesome. Well, welcome back, Todd. So, like before Todd stepped away, we had indicated there was some news out of the Steel City that you wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'm interested in hearing it, and I'm interested in mostly hearing Bobby's take on this as it affects his beloved Steelers. So, what do you got for us, Todd?
So, original reports were that Ben Roethlisberger stated that he was going to be retiring after this season. Right, that was the initial report that came out.
Saucy.
And then there was a correction made within 15 minutes of that initial report that he likely sees this as his last season with the Steelers. Right. So then the question is, I guess there's two questions. Does he retire? And if he doesn't retire, where is he going to go?
But thirdly, you could infer he said last season playing quarterback for the Steelers. He could be a tight end next year.
Could be. Maybe just a placeholder. Too.
Bruce
Maybe
with a
just
comment. No, he should retire. Bobby, what's your perspective on this issue?
I will agree with one of our biggest fans, Bruce. If that man puts on a uniform other than black and gold, I don't think. I mean, let's say he was like shopping around. I don't think he gets an offer after the season anyway.
Bruce with a comment here says if he doesn't, he'll go to the Broncos. That is hilarious.
The old John Elway special.
That's funny. No, I don't think he would see any offers after this season, even if he chose to play. I think he's done. I think he needs to hang it up. We've seen spurts this year of the old Ben. And then it's been like, I would say probably 70-30 on, 70 being, the downhill play and 30%, of the old play that we're used to. And I just don't see that getting better next year. I think he's given everything he's got to the game. And I just think he needs to put the pads away and then think about life after football.
Yeah, I mean, he's got kids. He's got a family. He's got 2 Super Bowls. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. What else is there?
There's nothing left to prove.
And there's nothing left to prove. But at the same time, it's really easy for us to sit here and say that, when we get to the end of our careers, likely doing podcasting, that's probably how we'll retire.
Please.
Yeah, and when we get to the end of it, and we're sitting here like half like falling asleep as we broadcast, and
I mean, I do that now.
And people are like, it's time for you guys to hang it up, but we enjoy doing it. So if someone will have us, if someone will watch us, or in Ben's case, if someone will allow him to start for them, and he likes doing it,
So let's play the hypothetical. Where would he go?
It's an interesting question. So who are the quarterback needy teams, if not this year, into the foreseeable future? I think Denver makes a lot of sense. I think the Panthers makes a lot of sense because I'm not convinced that Sam Darnold is the end-all, be-all there in Carolina. They've just fired their offensive coordinator in Joe Brady, who is the 906,043 millionth example of a college football coach not making it in the NFL. I'm trying to riddle through the rest of the league here and try and think. I'm not sure. Houston, they may have a problem.
Detroit could have a need.
Detroit, a little stopgap. Yeah, a little stopgap. Sell some tickets and some jerseys.
Right. So I think any of the teams we discussed, the only way that they take Ben Roethlisberger, it's literally because there's not really any viable options for rookies to start next year.
And they're not going to have and they're not interested or don't have a top 5 pick. Right.
That's correct. So I think, well, first of all, my personal opinion is I think Ben Roethlisberger retires after this year. Mm-hmm. I agree with you, Corey. I think this is legitimately probably the only thing that he's really done full time his whole adult life.
I mean, since he was probably 13 years, or 16 years old.
Right. I mean, he's a 4-year starting quarterback at his high school, quarterback / tight end at his high school in Findlay. and then was a starting tight end, 2 quarterback at Miami University, and then an 18-year career in the NFL, right? So you're talking about over half of his life, all he has done is play football at a higher level.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for us to be like, yeah, you got to hang it up, bro. It's done. It's over with. Your body's falling apart. But
that's all he knows. All he knows is the game of football.
Right. And I think it's really scary. I mean, think about, add 8 years to your life and somebody comes up to you at your job and goes, hey, man, I think you just need to hang it up and retire. Yeah. That's a really scary feeling, right? I'm certainly not prepared to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life if I'm not going to be working.
If I was financially stable, I'd figure it out pretty fucking quick. Let me be honest with you. I'd be selling. Yep, go grab cart 13. You're going to be starting on the back 9 today.
Yeah.
I'd figure that one out pretty fucking quickly, to be honest with you. And it's a pride thing. It's a competitiveness that's gotten him to where he is.
Sure.
He's an
elite competitor.
Well, not just that, he's an elite performer. He's arguably over the last 15 years, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks that we've seen in our lifetime. And that was a bit of a stretch. We've seen Steve Young in our lifetime, Tom Brady, Brett Favre. Maybe top 5's a little bit close, but he's up there.
Let's do 2000s.
He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. I already mentioned that, and I think if I were close to him, which I would never hope to be, but if I was, I would say, Ben, you've got kids. Stop now while you can still pick them up, while you can still go to their baseball games, while you can still tuck them in at night, and the things that you're not going to be able to do forever. So if I was close to him, that's what I would say. Just being a dad myself and already cherishing those things. That's what I would say to Ben, and I'm tip my cap to him for kicking my team's ass for the last almost 2 decades, and good fucking riddance. That's what I would say.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting. If I had to guess, though, I would say that Ben does end up hanging it up. I don't see him wearing another jersey. I think he's good, and I think Bobby made a good point. I'm not sure anybody else would take him. So
yeah.
So all right, we've got one more NFL topic to get into before we start talking a little bit of baseball, and then if anybody has anything in regards to NBA that we want to discuss, we can bring that up then. Chad, if you have anything that you want us to bring up or talk about, this is our Tuesday Town Hall. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you want to talk about in the wide world of sports. So shoot it out at us. Let us know what's going on, and we'll add it to the docket. But we're going to play a little game. This game, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I had a Bob Barker mic right now. Damn it. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Barker Studios. This is Hall of Fame or Not, where we will be discussing current and very recently retired, well, relatively recent, in our lifetime players who are not on the Hall of Fame, and we're wondering, should they be? So as we look forward to number 1, this is a player that Bobby brought up last week, who he is quoted as saying is the demise of the Los Angeles Rams defense, the reason they are on a skid.
It is coincidental.
I am talking, of course.
He didn't say he was the reason. He said the tweet was the reason.
Well, it was actually an interview conversation that he had.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, interview question.
I am talking, of course, of one Mr. Von Miller. Is Mr. Von Miller in, or is he out of the Hall of Fame?
I guess I'll lead off here.
Yeah, the floor is all yours, Bobby.
Sure.
Yeah, so last week I had mentioned that I wasn't. Here's what I said. I said he wasn't a Hall of Famer.
Here's what I said.
I said he wasn't. I was gonna try to politically get around it. But I'll just tell you what I said. That's what I said. I have hints done some research, and
Oh, have you?
I have. He's 36 all time leading sacks. He's still active. He's 32 years old, about to be 33. 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All Pro.
8-time Pro Bowler.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 8. Excuse me. I missed it. I missed one of the asterisks there. 7, 8 semantics. Still pretty damn good. I just forgot how good he was in Denver.
You did, and it's okay. We all make mistakes.
And
Rob with a comment.
He's absolutely a Hall of Famer.
Rob with a comment here that is probably my favorite accolade of him. Super Bowl MVP as well.
Yeah.
Super Bowl MVP.
If Rob wasn't going to say it, I was going to say it. On top of the beautiful cherry on top of the Von Miller Hall of Fame Sunday is that he was also a Super Bowl MVP.
Right. Yeah. Not to mention the 8-time Pro Bowls, 39th all time in sacks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your Sunday, right? That's the brownie.
Right.
That's the ice
3-time All Pro.
Yeah, that's your whipped cream. You've got a lot of accoutrement in there. Then the nice, beautiful cherry on top.
What a word! Let's give it up for Todd on that word.
Thank you.
Accoutrement. Oh my God!
Public school education at all levels getting me there. So
beautiful.
Thank you so much. But Bobby, I appreciate that. You are a man that takes ownership of his words, and I hate to tell you, but last week Bobby was wrong. But today Bobby is right.
So a little bit more, just some more accolades on Von Miller. 2011 through 2020, Von Miller was ranked a top 100 NFL player by his peers. He is second all time in active, and I actually show him as 23rd. Oh, excuse me, that's incorrect. Yeah, in terms of his career, I show him as 23rd all time in terms of sacks with 110.5, but I could be wrong.
He is 36 according to Pro Football
Reference. You're right. I'm looking at it right. Those are unofficial sacks, including the 1960 season and beyond. From 1982, which are official sacks, he is 23rd. So yes, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. He is 9th all time for tackles for a loss. And just an absolute fucking unit, and he rides horses, which is cool. So.
Also, one of the best Old Spice advertisers out there.
Yeah, and
commercials were spectacular.
Bruce with a comment, and he's an overall good guy. Pretty true. You never heard anything bad about Von Miller. So we're all in consensus that Von Miller is and will be a Hall of Famer. Moving on to the next one in our lovely Hall of Fame or not, Mr. Julian Edelman. From 2009 to 2020, Julian Edelman played with the New England Patriots and the
Buccaneers. Julian Edelman leaving a year after and hanging up the cleat. So I ask you, gentlemen, Julian Edelman, Hall of Fame or not?
So he is better than Danny Amendola. I think that kind of came up last week. He is better than his statistics show that he is better than Danny Amendola. But I do not think that he will make it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Why is that?
That is my personal opinion. I don't think Wes Welker is going to make it to the Hall of Fame, right? I think they played similar roles in New England for Tom Brady. Although Julian Edelman, I believe, is top 15 all-time in catches and total receptions, right?
That's incorrect.
He's not top 15?
No.
Where does he rank?
Julian Edelman's not top 75.
Really?
Julian Edelman has 620 career receptions. Now, he spent 4 seasons in the top 10 in the league. But he is 79th overall in career reception.
Maybe that was where my statistics are skewed. But no, I just think that, look, he, in my opinion, he was a right place, right time with the right quarterback, wide receiver for his career.
Sure.
He is very victorious, right? He's won lots of games. He's got plenty of rings. But when Bolt Robert Ory's not in the Hall of Fame for basketball, right? He has the most rings, third most rings of any basketball player of all time. That doesn't mean Julian Edelman gets to be in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
I just don't think rings equate to that. So that's my argument.
It's fair.
Yeah, I mean, his highest accolade, he's got, 3 rings with Tom Brady?
He was actually a 2018 NFL Super Bowl MVP as well.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going statistically speaking, no, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's never once been to the Pro Bowl. Never once selected first team All-Pro. Statistically, he's not very high. He's got a big name because of who he played with and, the impact that he had, in big moments. He was clutch. If he gets in, it has to do with the amount of rings that he has and, the performance he had when he was a Super Bowl MVP. I would say if he gets in, it's not going to be first ballot. It's probably going to be well down the line. So I'm gonna say no as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with all you guys. Ben with a comment here saying he's just here for us to say that since he's beaten Alabama. We haven't gotten to our predictions yet on the bowl games, but Ben, you just keep watching every week and we'll get to it, buddy. Don't you worry. But I'm right there with you guys. The only reason Julian Edelman is even in this game that we're playing here, Rob with a comment, not first ballot, but he'll make it in. I'm 100% in disagreement with that. I love you, Rob, but I'm just literally the only accolades that Julian Edelman has is that he is a 3-time Super Bowl champ, and all of those Super Bowl championships happen to have occurred when he played with Tom Brady. We're kind of echoing each other now, but in terms of receiving yards, okay, well maybe he didn't get a lot of catches, but he had a lot of big plays. No, he didn't. He's 161st in terms of receiving yards. He's 79th in terms of receptions. He's not even registering in terms of total receiving touchdowns either. I'm not even finding this statistic in terms of how it ranks within the rest of the league. Never been to the Pro Bowl, as Bobby said. So no, Julian Edelman's not getting in. The reason why I brought this up is because when he announced his retirement, the world went crazy. The world decided, oh my God, he's definitely going into the Hall of Fame because he's been a popular name. He's been a big fantasy player. Over the last few years as fantasy football has exploded.
If there was a fantasy football Hall of Fame, he'd be in it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I don't understand. I don't. Fantasy football doesn't equate to Hall of Fame ballots,
right?
But I understand it though because a lot of people equate success
to fantasy football.
Fantasy football, yeah, right. Yeah, so I did fact check myself. And I'm glad you brought up fantasy football because Julian Edelman is in the top 15 all-time for most fantasy points scored from 2010 to 2019.
Exactly. Do
you guys know? Ooh. Here's just a question.
I can't wait.
So I'm looking up stats of the 2010s, right? And
they might go back to say the golden age of football.
Right. So do you guys know who actually had the most receptions in the 2010s?
Marvin Harrison.
No.
Reggie
2010s.
Wayne. 2010s?
2010s. Yeah. 2010 to 2019.
Okay.
Larry Fitzgerald.
I was going to say Larry.
Fitzgerald, the all-time leading receiver.
That was my next
guess. Do you
guess.
know who has the most rushing yards from 2010 to 2019?
Adrian Peterson.
He is third.
He's third. Okay.
Chris Johnson?
No.
He is eighth.
Arian Foster.
He is 10th.
Oh, wow.
Great. All great guesses. So you guys
Foster.
are all in the top 10.
We're playing this game. Don't you dare fucking say the name. Chat, if you know who it is, I want you to throw it out there. Don't look it up, though. Santa Claus is watching you.
What about Marshawn Lynch?
Ooh.
He is fourth.
Nice,
great
Bobby.
Guess. So
nice job.
3, 4, 8,
Ray Rice.
10. Ray Rice is not even on the list. May he rot in hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so 2010 to 2009. So this could be Derrick Henry.
It is not Derrick Henry. That's a great guess, though.
Is he on the list?
Sidebar. Did you guys see how many rushing yards he has this year? He's still fourth in rushing yards.
Yeah, he's
for all running backs, and he's missed the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's ridiculous.
Frank Gore.
He is second. You guys are so close.
Damn it.
So you guys are in the right thought, though. I will say that.
Okay, so it's an older back.
So all I will say is that he is still active to play in the NFL.
He's still active to play. Active to play in the
And
NFL.
he has been on rosters as recent as the beginning of this season.
I already said Adrian Peterson, so it's not him. Damn it. Give me all right, let's start with a conference that he's most famous for. What conference?
I guess we could say I can't because I think that he played primarily in the AFC. His best years were in the AFC.
It's not Edgerrin James.
That's
too old.
back.
That's too old. His best years were in the AFC. Is he a Jacksonville Jaguar?
No.
Okay.
Great thought.
Jones Drew.
You're thinking Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yes.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
That's a great guess.
Okay, best years are in the AFC.
Todd Gurley's too young. He wasn't in the league.
Oh, Le'Veon Bell.
No.
Oh, shit.
So I think you guys have said
Josh
6 of the
Layman
10
with
people.
Josh Layman with a guess. Steven Jackson.
It is not Steven Jackson, but great Oregon State reference
I
there.
was gonna say he's
love
an
that.
NFC guy anyway, right? Most
Yeah,
famous with the
he's
Rams.
on the Rams. Yep.
All right, don't you give up? Don't give up on us, baby.
I'm not giving up. I think one of the two of you will get it in the next 3 guesses.
Okay, so AFC. I'm just working through the teams here.
I'm racking my brain.
So he played. So he did play. So he had good years. He got his start was in the NFC, but his best years, in my opinion, were in the AFC.
His start was in the NFC. Oh my God.
You could argue that actually 2 of these people on the top 10 list were on the same team at the same time
What the fuck?
in the NFC.
You're blowing my mind right now. What about Mark Ingram?
He is on the list, but he is 7th.
Interesting. Damn.
Alvin Kamara hasn't been around long enough.
No.
Nope. He got drafted in 2019.
All right, Bruce. You have a good night, man. Thank you for coming out and
Bruce.
hanging out with us.
See you, big dog.
All right, you got to give us a conference. We're burning daylight now.
AFC
Or a division.
South.
AFC South. So Colts, Texans, Jags, Titans.
I'm sorry. AFC West. I'm sorry.
Okay. Priest Holmes.
No, good guess though.
Who's the other one? He's a Chief, right?
Who was after him?
It's it's not Chief. It's a Bronco.
No, it's not a Bronco. He did. It is a Chief. Yes.
Oh, is it it's
Yeah.
a Chief. Okay, yeah. It's not Curtis
his
Martin.
name?
I'm just going to give you guys the 3 teams that he played for in the 2010s. Okay.
Okay.
Played with the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs.
The Eagles, the Bill. Is it Shady?
Yeah, Shady McCoy.
LaShawn McCoy. Let's
Yeah,
go.
number one
Wow.
with 10,434 yards in the 20.
That's amazing. I never
Gosh, I'm
ever
surprised you
would have
didn't get
guessed.
that. That was like your fantasy dude.
So the other 2 guys, the other 3 guys that you did not say, Frank Gore. I don't think you guys said Frank Gore, did you?
Yeah, I
said
did.
Frank Gore.
I did.
Okay,
said
sorry. Matt Forte. DeMarco Murray. So Shady McCoy and DeMarco Murray were on the Eagles at the same time.
Okay.
And then this one's going to blow your guys' mind. LeGarrette Blunt.
Nice. This is top 10 fantasy scores from 2010 to 2019 at the running back position.
These are the top 10 running. Yeah.
Okay. That makes LeGarrette Blunt makes a lot of sense.
Yes, because he was an automatic touchdown because he
Right.
always ran.
Hand them the ball and let him run. So if you guys are just jumping in the stream, we are playing Hall of Fame or not. We've done Von Miller. We have done Julian Edelman. And now for a fun one.
We got on a quick sidebar, but
Yeah, we did.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say no.
On Julian Edelman, yeah, I think we all
No,
were.
I meant the next one.
Oh, really? Interesting. When he busts, he fills up rivers. Mr. Phillip Rivers. Hall of Fame or not.
I think he's in the Fatherhood Hall of Fame for making his wife have 9 kids.
The baby making Hall of Fame, first ballot, the best there is at it.
So here's what I will say about Phillip Rivers. I think part of being a Hall of Fame quarterback requires you to have really big key moments in your career that solidify whether it's playoff wins, conference championships, or really key wins to your season. I don't think of Phillip Rivers in any of those instances. Now, I think statistically, when you look at him, he's top 25 in pretty much most quarterback categories. But I don't think that's enough to translate to him being a Hall of Fame quarterback with the myriad of Hall of Fame quarterbacks that exist within this time frame of Phillip Rivers. And that's me saying that he also took a Hall of Fame quarterback spot in San Diego, right? Because they drafted him to replace Drew Brees. And that's how Drew Brees ended up in New Orleans.
They actually didn't draft him.
Or they traded for him, right?
Yeah, well, he was drafted by the New York
Giants.
Giants.
Eli Manning trade.
Right, because Eli Manning was drafted by the Chargers and they did the old flippy floppy. So regardless, that was Drew Brees' replacement.
Sure.
I don't think that Phillip Rivers possesses the key components of being a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Which are winning in big moments?
Winning in big moments, conference championships, and basically like primary, like him being the benefactor and then winning key games.
Okay.
I think as a quarterback, you have to have Super Bowl rings in order to even touch the Hall of Fame. For the most part, you have your exceptions.
So Ken Anderson, does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? 2-time MVP, 4-time passing champion.
That's a different. That's a biased opinion because you and I both believe that he should be. But
he's an MVP and a passing champion.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are a few exceptions.
Sure.
But for somebody like Rivers, if he would have had 2 or 3 Super Bowl rings, he'd be in. But like Todd said, he never had a big moment where he could win the game, big game, I should say.
So
he was a great quarterback for a long time, but
I'm gonna say Phillip Rivers is absolutely gonna be in the Hall of Fame. And just from a statistical perspective, in terms of passing touchdowns, Phillip Rivers all time 6, passing yards all time 5, passes completed all time 6, all time passer rating he is 12th. He's 10th in terms of times being sacked. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You can spin that how you want it to be.
Yeah. I'm not actually, and I'm not sure. He had 7 seasons that he was in the top 10 in quarterback passer rating. I believe he's an 8-time Pro Bowler, if I'm not mistaken, and he was a 2013 Comeback Player of the Year. Just showing how long he was successful. Yes, Phillip Rivers never won a Super Bowl. I would argue that had he been on a organization such as the Green Bay Packers or the Saints or the Patriots or go on, any other organization other than the San Diego Chargers, to be honest with you, Phillip Rivers probably would have won a Super Bowl. He's honestly one of the more charismatic leaders in the game that I've ever seen play. One of the best trash talkers in the league, bar none.
That's true.
So yeah, I will stray from the pack there in terms of the Phillip Rivers, and I would say maybe not first ballot, but undoubtedly will eventually get into the Hall of Fame. Chat, what do you think on Phillip Rivers? Let us know.
Rob coming in with a couple comments. He had a question. How long was Phillip Rivers' consecutive game streak?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's take a look.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. He was the one thing I'll say is he was extremely durable through most of his playing career. He did not spend a lot of time out with injury. For the most part.
So Brett Favre has the record of 297 consecutive games.
I don't think that ever gets beat.
Phillip Rivers played in 241. I believe Eli Manning was very, very close to the Brett Favre's record. Let me look that up real quick. 210. So not as much as not as much as Phillip Rivers, but nonetheless, Rob coming with a 252 was what it was. I googled it. It showed me different, but either way, not longer than Favre, but extremely long. And
yeah, Favre's record's like Cal Ripken's record. It just doesn't get touched.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
no
Favre was also eating Percocets in the locker room at halftime like they were fucking orange Tic Tacs. So that helped him riddle through some pain.
And changing into his Wrangler jeans at halftime.
Wrangler. Yeah, real comfortable jeans. 252 if you count playoffs is what Rob is specifying there. Appreciate that, Rob. Thank you very much. So one that hits close to home is next on Hall of Fame or not. This guy is a current semifinalist for Pro Football Hall of Fame. The one, arguably my favorite right tackle of all time, Mr. Big Willie Anderson. Now, if you don't know who Willie Anderson is, I'm not going to knock you guys. You probably only know him if you live in Cincinnati or you are a Cincinnati Bengals fan. But Willie Anderson is a longtime right tackle of the Cincinnati Bengals. Came out of Auburn. Spent most of his career with the Bengals, 1996 to 2000, right? 1996 to 2007. Then he spent 2008 1 year with the Baltimore Ravens. So, I ask you, gentlemen, Willie Anderson, Hall of Fame or not?
So, I think one thing about Willie Anderson that, again, only if you're a Bengals fan that you realize, he played if we're talking longevity, he was drafted in 96, right?
Mm.
So from 96 to 2007, he didn't miss a snap until like week 8 because he got hurt.
Yep.
He played in every single game, every single snap from the first game of his rookie season to 2007. And
it's unreal for no lineman.
Yeah,
it is.
And he was an absolute force of a right tackle.
Correct.
There were a lot of inconsistencies in the Bengals offensive line over the last 30 years, let's call it. Willie Anderson was not an issue he just wasn't an issue. And in fact, you could argue that Willie Anderson is one of the best technique right tackles of all time. If you watch footage of Willie Anderson pass blocking, they use examples outside of him having his own offensive lineman camp, which is incredible. I think it's great. It's great for offensive linemen. They don't get the credit they deserve for all the things that they do for the athletes around them. They use footage of Willie Anderson for high school offensive linemen. Corey, I don't know if you remember this or not, but there were brief times when we would watch film when we were in high school that you would watch Willie Anderson pass block on like a 4 or 5 man rush.
Yeah.
Because as a right tackle, there would be times where he would be blocking 2 people. He would have somebody on each hand and he would be blocking it because he understood that the foundation of him being successful was that initial back right foot drop that he was so great at and being able to keep his hips wide to keep his chest out. And I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I certainly hope that he.
So he's not a first ballot. He's been on the ballot for about 3 or 4 times, actually.
3? Okay. So I think that I hope this is the year that he gets in.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking. Bobby said it. Maybe it's not the same for offensive linemen, but Super Bowls talk a lot of times, or
I think market talks.
Yeah. Well, look, and I think that you could argue too that Willie Anderson was a big part of a rushing record being broken, right? He was the right tackle when Corey Dillon broke the single game rushing record, and he was a lead blocker a lot of the time for Corey Dillon. There were a lot of plays that were either like draws or kind of like a hatch play where it was basically Dillon fakes to the left, runs to the right behind their left guard, Willie Anderson, as a right tackle. So
a couple of statistics for you guys. Willie Anderson is a 4-time Pro Bowl right tackle, a 3-time All-Pro right tackle. And Willie Anderson has only allowed, and again, we told you how many seasons he played. Let me just get that for you. My computer's slacking up on me right now. So it's 96 to 2001, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry.
2008.
2008.
12 years.
12 years in the league. He only 13 years in the league. Sorry. He surrendered only 16 sacks in his entire career. He did not give up a single sack between 1999 and 2001. That's 3 seasons, ladies and gentlemen. The 11 quarterback pressures that he allowed in 2006 were the 4th fewest pressures allowed by an offensive tackle in a single season between 2006 and 2019. 4th fewest in a 13-season span. So Willie Anderson, in my opinion, should he be a Hall of Famer? Absolutely. One of the best right tackles in the game of all time. Is he a Hall of Famer? Will he get into the Hall of Fame? I don't know. And I think that is a little bit of the bias of the markets that these guys are operating in. So, Bobby, as not a Bengals fan, I'm interested in your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, those are some pretty telling stats, right? I mean, he gave up basically one sack a game, and that's just for one season, but he played 13. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think offensive linemen get enough credit. They are certainly the scapegoat when things don't go well, and when you have somebody that keeps it that quiet, and the fact that nobody knows his name is why he should be in the Hall of Fame. Because the only popular offensive linemen are the ones that suck.
Fair point.
So, that's really my argument there. I mean, I had to go look up his stats as well, and I was just blown away. He should absolutely be in this year. Hopefully he finally gets the nod. But we'll see. I mean, just like you said, with him playing in Cincinnati, not a very desirable market for Hall of Fame candidates. It probably takes them a little bit longer to get in than other teams that have better history in the NFL.
Sure. So we're running a little long on this topic, so I'm just going to skip and go to one final topic. I did a homer one for me. I'm going to do one for Bobby here. And before we move on to a little bit of baseball chat, before we wrap up the night here, one final one for Hall of Fame or not, the smiling man himself, Mr. Hines Ward. Hall of Fame or not?
You know my take. I want to hear what you guys have to say.
I don't know your take. I'm curious.
100%. I mean, he was one of the most consistent pieces, of that team for what was it, 12, 13 seasons. I mean, he was unbelievable. Super Bowl MVP. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest. He ran great routes. He hit people hard, as you guys are very familiar with, and that just all around. Just if you were a Steelers fan, you loved him. If you were rooting for anybody else, you absolutely hated this guy. I don't have his stats handy. Let me pull them up real quick.
I got them for you. So
I would say, statistically speaking, it probably wasn't anything too crazy.
There's some pretty decent statistics. So 4-time Pro Bowler, and as you alluded to, a 2005 NFL Super Bowl MVP. So those are some some nice perspectives, or nice accolades rather. Receiving yards, not stellar, but not anything to shrug off. He's 27th all time in terms of receiving yards. In terms of receiving,
six of his years he was over 1,000 yards as well. Which anytime you can get over 1,000 yards, you're successful.
Sure. Receiving touchdowns, 16th all time. Nothing to shrug off there. Again, he's not one of the greatest ever, but 16, out of any receiver ever to play, I think that's great. Yards per game, his career average, 55 yards. 55.7 yards per game, 117th all time. Touchdowns, total touchdowns scored, 48th all time. And I guess if there's anything else here, all-purpose yards, 79th all time.
Yeah, the stats aren't gonna, necessarily blow you away on paper. He was a great locker room guy, a great teammate for anybody that was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially for that receiving core. I mean, he was the heart and soul for a long time. So I think he's got enough to get in. Whether he gets in or not, it's a good question. The Super Bowl ring and the MVP. If anything gets him in, that would be it. I think he deserves to be in just for the style of play that he did, and how long he was able to play at such a high level.
So just taking a look at the semifinalists this year for the class of 2022, the semifinalists for the Hall of Fame. The wide receivers that are listed currently: Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, Steve Smith, Steve Tasker, Hines Ward, and that is it. Reggie Wayne. So in terms of the wide receivers listed, Hines Ward is on that list. Again, this is, I believe, it's 26 players that it has been whittled down to for a semifinalist to get into the Hall of Fame. Some other notable names: Jared Allen, Anquan Bolden, Eddie George, Torrey Holt, Richard Seymour, Fred Taylor, Zach Thomas, Ricky Waters, DeMarcus Ware, Vince Wilfork, Patrick Willis, Darren Woodson. Some decent names, famous names. As we get older, these are guys that we grew up watching. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Hines Ward was one of the last true crack block receiver of the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see. Rob with a comment: Corey, you forgot the single best stat of Hines Ward. Dancing with the Stars champion. That's true. I did forget that. It's one of the more notable statistics of his career. I think he'd probably put Dancing with the Stars, Super Bowl MVP, and then probably Super Bowl champion. That's probably how he would list it. And then Dad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So good for Hines Ward. All right. Moving on. We're switching topics here. We literally talked college football, pro football. Another one of our loves is America's pastime, and something happened that we talked a little bit about on Thursday's show in the MLB lockout. So, Todd, you had something that you wanted to raise to the group here, raise to the chat about the MLB lockout.
Yeah, so this is my question that I would like to pose to you two and all of our current viewers. Who does the lockout impact the most? Is it the franchise itself, the players, or the fans, and why?
Roboito?
Yeah. I'm going to say players, but not the guys in the MLB. These are your guys in single, double, triple A that don't make a ton of money. These guys, make just as much as we. It'd be like all of us just getting, basically saying, hey, you can't go to work.
Furloughed.
You're furloughed. You got to go find a job. These are guys that, they don't have, hundreds of thousands of, dollars or millions of dollars in the bank account. They don't have endorsements coming in. They don't have any additional, streams of income. They just play baseball for a living for, anywhere from, 40 to, a couple $100,000 a year. And now you're just not getting a paycheck. I think, I mean, it impacts the fans, yes. I think it sucks for us, especially those of us that like to watch baseball. Ownership has, I don't think this impacts them at all. They're the ones that basically caused the lockout. They didn't want to agree to the players' terms. I think the players' union has a little bit to do with it as well. But as far as impact, it's basically the sub-major league players for me personally.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
So I actually think that it impacts the fans the most, right? So just as you're talking about all these guys that play rookie ball, low A ball, high A ball, double A, triple A. There is a fan base for every single one of those organizations, right? And a lot of those fan bases are in very small communities or smaller communities where that is a source of income for a lot of those fans too, because they
gamble on the games.
Well, yeah, maybe.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But they
Corey
they
gambles on the games.
Yeah, I'm betting on Lansing Lugnuts big time.
So they work within that organization through whatever organization they work through, whether it's through charity fundraisers. You know, as a former, Bobby and I both are former people who resided in Dayton, Ohio, and the Dayton Dragons are an integral part of that community.
They host a lot of concerts, things like that.
Yes, and a ton of community events, right? Community events that give back to that community around them, because there are some parts of Dayton that are not so great, just like most above average size cities.
Yeah.
And a lot of these organizations, that is a big part of what they do, is they give back to the community and they create baseball for people that don't get to experience baseball because they're 250 miles away from Chicago or St. Louis or, you know, the West Coast, whatever it may be.
Yeah,
right?
the Omaha Storm Chaser fans aren't going to be, you know, packing up and heading to a Cardinals game anytime soon.
Right, exactly. So I think that this is, you're creating a huge detriment to fans because you're creating a delay and a thing that brings communities together. And I don't think, I know for a fact that Major League Baseball and the owners of these franchises don't think about their all of the teams within their organization when they have these lockouts. The Anaheim Angels or the Los Angeles Angels are only worried about signing contracts for the Angels, right? The Yankee ownership is only worried about the billions of dollars that they're spending on a half dozen players, right? And that really sucks. That really sucks that Major League Baseball has gotten that selfish. And because even when the lockout happened in the 90s, there was a big spread in what a major league player made versus a low A or an A league player. But that spread is ridiculous. A low A ball player makes $32,000 a year. Max Scherzer is going to make $43 million this year. He is going to, so just to put that in perspective so you guys understand, Max Scherzer will make more money than every single player that makes low A ball combined. Just think about that.
And just since you're talking about that right now, you mentioned $30,000 and $40,000. Some of these guys are making less than $20,000.
Yeah,
that's the minimum.
Signee.
The minimum.
Yeah, if you're an international signee, you sign on for $16,000, and that's what you get paid.
A single A minimum salary, $93.50. A double A salary, $15,000. I'm sorry, $6,000 in single A, $93.50 in double A, and $15,000 for triple A. Those are the minimums.
Yeah. So, but
what's the league minimum in the majors?
475,000.
No. Really? Is that high?
It's not a million. I think it's.
No, he said 475,000.
Yeah, it's not a million. I think it's. Yes, it's somewhere between 475 and 750.
$570,500.
Okay, maybe I think it went up recently.
$500,000.
Yeah, which is the
substantial.
Lowest, which is lower than football or basketball, but higher than hockey. But my point being that there are communities that are, we're going to lose more minor league organizations from this lockout. That's the real legitimate ramification because we already lost a lot because of COVID. We're going to lose more.
They have the best hats too.
The trash pandas.
But the thing that really sucks is that, you know, the thing that baseball at its roots is supposed to do is bring communities together. And this lockout prevents that. It's preventing a new fan base.
So I think one of the things that you guys both basically kind of focused on there was the minor league aspect of this, and I totally agree with that. I think that that's one of the major that's the most immediate impact. The minor league players, the minor league communities, the minor league teams. Real quick before I get to my major impact, what I think is going to impact the most is that what we will see in the coming months is that the minor league teams need this season much more than the major league teams. From a financial standpoint, the communities and the players both alike need baseball to happen more from a financial standpoint. It's how they depend on income. And what we'll see is that the ownership and the league in general will align with those minor league teams because they are the majority. There are more of minor leaguers and minor league organizations than there are major league players, and they can sway the vote of the MLB Players Association to end the lockout faster. So we will see that alignment happen at some point, and it makes sense from a your feet are held to the fire from a minor leaguer's perspective. You're going to bend your desires to make sure that you get some kind of paycheck. That's going to happen. What I think is affected more than the fans, more than the players, more than whatever. Any of the topics that we've discussed so far tonight. The thing that is affected most is the game of baseball in general. The game of baseball. When you look at other sports, you look at football, you look at basketball, you look at soccer. Those are the other three major sports. Even hockey. You look at viewership, and you look at fans, and you look at kids, and what are they following? What are they playing? What are they getting into? Baseball is probably one of the slowest growing sports in the world right now.
It is. It's the slowest growing professional sport in the world. Major League Baseball is the slowest growing professional sport in the world.
So even looking at hockey, hockey is a faster growing professional sport in terms of fanhood, in terms of revenue, in terms of TV. Well, maybe not TV deals. The TV deals for MLB are pretty ridiculous, but
yeah,
in terms of fans, Major League or National Hockey, the National Hockey League is growing faster than Major League Baseball. And what this is doing is really just giving fans an excuse to look to alternative locations for sports. So what happens in March? What's happening in March when baseball normally gets going? End of March, early April. You got the Masters. Golf, one of the faster growing spectator sports in the country. You've got March Madness wrapping up and ending as Major League Baseball gets going. You have the NFL draft that is in mid parts of April as well. You have the NBA season is winding down. The NHL season is winding down and getting exciting. Playoffs are right around the corner. Major League Baseball is shooting themselves in the foot. Are you going to start your season during the NHL playoffs? Are you going to start your season during the NBA playoffs? No one's gonna watch that. No one cares about that.
Look what happened to viewership during the COVID season. That's exactly what happened.
It absolutely tanked.
It died.
So Major League Baseball, it already does a horrible job of promoting itself. It does a horrible job of promoting its stars and gaining fans and being a cool sport or being a fun sport. It's years behind the other leagues. It's just a fact. I love watching baseball. I watch baseball almost every single night when the Reds are on. That's just what I do. I enjoy watching the game. It's relaxing. I grew up doing it. It's something that I like. I am not the majority. We are not the majority. Baseball fans are not the majority. You talk to most people our age and even older, they tell you baseball is boring. I don't want to watch it. And that's not because of the game itself. It's because of the way that the system is designed and the way that they market themselves. The league just does a horrible job at doing it. And when you have these organizations that are selling profit sharing to the players, that's what they're selling, right? We're going to share profits, but we're not going to open up our books and we're not going to expose what we're actually bringing in every single year. These organizations tried to tell us during the COVID years that we're going to be taking a loss. We're going to be taking a loss if we can't sell tickets. If you think that any sports organization, not even baseball, any sports organization took a loss during COVID, you're blind. You have no idea because they don't make any money on their tickets, ladies and gentlemen. They don't. All of it is on TV. They make it all through TV. The Reds attendance has been tanking over the last 5 years, and last 3 years they've been more profitable than ever. They've continued to climb on the Fortune 500 list. Why? They continue to sign more lucrative TV deals.
Absolutely. The TV deal that they signed with Valley Sports for going into this season,
Tigers as well.
yeah, that TV deal that Valley Sports put together within the communities, Cleveland included in that, that is, I think, for the Reds, it was like basically over the course of the contract, like $500 million in total additional revenue, because the contract's 15 or 16 years, something ridiculous. But $500 million.
Yeah.
And the counteract to that is that the nosebleed seats are less than $20. And I think another thing too, when you talk about you're hurting the fan base, this lockout, you can't buy jerseys right now. Right?
Yep.
You can't buy anything with the player right. So guess what? The Bryce Harper fan that lives in Las Vegas, because that's where Bryce Harper grew up, but now is in Philadelphia, he doesn't get a Bryce Harper jersey for Christmas.
Nope. The Bryce Harper fan that lives in Salt Lake City because he played for the Salt Lake Bees
doesn't exist anymore.
Nope.
Those jerseys don't exist, right? So you can't even get a classic team jersey right now. You just can't.
It's crazy.
They don't exist. Everything's been pulled off the shelf.
And
Swiped
that,
clean.
and that what that is
sporting goods. It's gone.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. That's insane.
Yeah. And that from my perspective, that's the league throwing their weight around, because players generate income off of the royalties from their, name, image, likeness being sold on the jersey as a professional athlete, and it's sad in general. And baseball is a lot of people say horse racing is one of the most corrupt sports. Boxing is one of the most corrupt sports. It's hard to say that baseball isn't up there too, in terms of the cheating that's been exposed over the last 20 years, whether that's performance-enhancing drugs, whether or not you call that cheating or whatever, or however you feel about it. It was against the rules and people did it. And you look at what the Astros have done over the last what they did a couple of years ago, and
the Red Sox,
part
of that too.
all of this stuff that has just come to light. The NFL does a really good job of burying these stories and continuing to be a media juggernaut and something that people continue to turn in. Major League Baseball finds a way, seemingly, for it to just bury them. And I can't help but think that it has to do with who the fuck is in charge with Major League Baseball, whether that's Rob Manfred or the ownership.
He will not be named.
Lord Voldemort or the owners. Either of those people, and I think it's probably both. When you look at the ownership groups of Major League Baseball, yes, I think there are some of them that are trying to win. But how many Robert Krafts do you find in Major League Baseball? How many Robert Krafts do you see out there? How many owners of teams? How many Jerry Jones? How many Mark Davis? How many owners do you see in the trenches that just love, eat, sleep, shit, breathe their team? To me, it's a country club. It's something we do.
Right. It's for most owners of baseball, and if you look at like Dick Williams, who left the Reds
2 years ago,
basically to work in his family's company, the thing that he swore that he would never do, because he didn't want to work in real estate. He didn't want to work in a business that he didn't feel like that he could put his passion into, because his passion is baseball.
Right.
He left because of the Castellini family. His exit, his letter to Cincinnati was so perfectly worded for him to say, hey, it's not you guys. It's the things in baseball that you guys don't see.
Right.
And those things are Major League Baseball's front office and ownership of organizations. Because the conversations that are had behind closed doors in baseball are so far-fetched, and there is such an inordinate disassociation from the ownership to the player, and that is by choice. Baseball does that by choice. They don't want to associate in the dugout. They want to lead from the press box. Or from their skybox, whatever you want to call it. That is how baseball operates. That is how Rob Manfred operates. He operates from the tower, and everybody in the trenches works for him. He has made that very clear with his adaptation to rules and to things that players can't do, just like expressing themselves on cleats. If it's not anything that has to do with what baseball is telling them to sponsor or what they're promoting, right? I love that baseball does things for breast cancer, prostate cancer, Jackie Robinson Day. Those things are phenomenal. I love it. It brings communities together. It gives money back to organizations that deserve it. But why can't a guy just wear whatever cleats he wants to wear in a game? Why can't he draw on his cleats and it can't just be on his left cleat on the inside, so it can't be a distraction? That's bullshit. These guys are getting paid so much money. If they can't hit because somebody has a big middle finger on the inside of their Nikes, then you probably shouldn't be playing Major League Baseball. You shouldn't be able to let that distract you. So there's so many. I mean, Bobby and I have talked about it in previous episodes of this too. Like, there are just so many disconnections from our generation and the millennial generation to the front office of Major League Baseball that there could potentially be a point in time where, like, the community of baseball lapses, meaning that the people that our families, the families that Corey and I are starting now, our children could not love baseball the way that we love baseball unless we teach them to, because there's not enough that promotes it for them besides a video game that does better than promoting Major League Baseball and YouTube. That's it. Those are the only two ways you're getting baseball.
Yeah, they need.
Now.
Baseball. Basically, in my opinion, they need to kind of put a bow on this. They need to lean into their players, lean into their superstars, make baseball fun. Continue to make baseball fun, appeal to the new generation. You know, the thing that the NFL is doing with the NFL Nickelodeon combination is genius.
Oh, that's great. I remember the first one that Todd and I watched together. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's great. I mean, you know, you've seen it. Okay, so the NFL recognized youth football numbers are going down. Less kids are playing youth football. Let's make football cool to the youth again, and that's what they did. So it's you know, I think we're all kind of in agreement here on the two major things. The game is going to suffer, and minor league institutions are going to suffer, players, fans, communities alike. So you know, I will always side on the side of the millionaire versus the billionaire in these cases, and in my opinion, this is all the blood is on the hands of the owners and the commissioner in this situation. So
I agree. Great conversations tonight, gentlemen. I've had goosebumps half a dozen times just getting into these conversations. It's been beautiful.
It's because I've been texting him off. That's why I keep looking at my phone. I'm texting Todd just dirty text messages and just getting him all riled up. So that's what it is.
That's why I had to walk away.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. So that's all we got for you guys tonight. We went a little long. We're pushing up about 2 hours now. I appreciate all those that have stuck with us. Again, we are doing if you're watching this or listening to this, you know, after the live stream, we are doing a college football pick'em. Is a 50-50 split. $10 entry. Half of your money will go to charity. That charity, of course, is the Covenant House of Michigan. And the other half goes to the winner. So if you're interested in getting into our college football bowl game pick'em, you can hit up me, you can hit up Todd, you can hit up Bobby. We'll get you the link. We'll get you the password after you pay us, of course. And then to the winner go the spoils. So appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We will be back Thursday night for Thursday Night Football and our Week 14 pick'em. We'll see you guys then. Everybody have a good night.
See you guys.